If y'all had told me that we would end the day talking about finger painting in a murder trial, I would never have believed you. But yet, here we are. We just wrapped up day 21 in Karen Reed's second trial. It is Tuesday, May 27th. Now, the day started off with a sidebar, of course, and it was a long one. But once everything actually got started, it was about an hour and 25 minutes into the live. Alessi conducted a voir dire of the Commonwealth's witness, Dr. Judson Welcher. Now, Welcher is an accident reconstructionist and biomechanical engineer from Aperture. So during the questioning for the voir dire, Alessi focused mainly on changes to Dr. Welcher's PowerPoint presentation that had been made. And the reason why this matters is because these changes are literally being made within days of his testimony. And when Dr. Welcher was asked who asked him to make these changes, he said it was Brennan. Now, Alessi then asks him about another change. That one was made within like a couple days. But Alessi asks him about another change that he made in his presentation, aside from the one that was a couple days ago. And turns out there was another one that he made about 8 to 10 days ago. And yet it's still allowed in. The judge has no issues with these changes from the prosecution's witness during trial. That's crazy to me. All right, so on direct, Brennan asked Welcher the basics and kind of about his background. Now, this went on for like 23 minutes. And one thing that he added is that he wanted to become a doctor, like a medical doctor. But I guess his dad told him medical school is not worth it.
So when I was getting ready to go to college, my father, who was a physician, said, whatever you do, do not go to medical school. Because I was getting ready to go to medical school. So this was 39 years ago, I believe. 35 years ago, 39 years ago. He said, it's just not worth it. So I said, okay. So then I entered into the mechanical engineering.
My brother is going to be so bummed to find out he wasted his life with medical school. So moving on, Dr. Welcher talked all about the reports and the information, basically everything that he reviewed in advance of testifying before he got started on his PowerPoint. Now, honestly, everything kind of early this morning and before lunch was kind of boring stuff. And it was very hard to follow for multiple reasons. I think some of it was the line of questioning. I think some of it was just the way he answered things. So I'm actually really curious if the jurors were able to pay attention to what was being said and kind of the back and forth, and if they were able to retain any of that information. Let me know how well y'all followed along in comments. Now, the main takeaway from like this first part of all of this, I think, is that Dr. Welcher said that he lined up the first trigger event on that one key cycle they keep talking about to the 3-point turn that Karen made when they passed Fairview Road, and they had to do like a 3-point turn to turn around and go back. And he actually shows a video simulation of that based on the phone location data and the car data. So around lunch and after lunch, things actually got a lot more interesting. So first up, we see like a simulation and graphic that Dr. Welcher created of the moment when Karen backed out of John O'Keefe's garage. Now, as a reminder, the defense says that this is how Karen cracked her taillight, by backing into John's car when she's pulling out of the garage. And we've already seen the ring camera footage in court of Karen backing out of the garage and she hits John's car. So Dr. Welcher used that footage as well as a like mathematical grid type thing and images from different angles to create this simulation. So he says that Karen's car actually does make contact with John O'Keefe's and even shows where the snow is knocked off of John's bumper. But he says, based on his investigation, Karen's taillight isn't the part of her car that he says would have hit John's, and it did not cause her taillight to crack.
Considering all the data and analysis that you did you come to a conclusion to a reasonable degree of engineering certainty whether the right rear taillight of Miss Reed's Lexus was broken or damaged during the contact with Mr. O'Keefe's car at around 5:07 a.m. on January 29, 2022?
That impact did not break or crack that taillight.
Is that your opinion?
That's my opinion.
Is that to a reasonable degree of engineering certainty?
That's to a high degree of engineering certainty.
Now, if you want to watch the entire segment, it starts around 5 hours into the live stream. So then we move on to the grease paint reconstruction. I'm going to let out one of my Bev sighs for that one. So PhD Dr. Welcher shows the jury a video of himself basically posing as John O'Keefe, since they are close in height. I mean, he's even got like the same clothes on and everything. So we see also the exact model of Karen's SUV. And the exact model of Karen's SUV, Dr. Welcher dressed as John O'Keefe, orange shirt, even like the two-toned hoodie and everything. And he had some blue grease paint covering the rear taillight of the car. So first he just kind of lines his arm up with the taillight and kind of presses up against it so that we can see the area where John O'Keefe would have supposedly been hit. Then we see the car reverse at 2 miles per hour into Dr. Welcher, and he kind of like rolls into it. I don't know. Take a look.
So now I said, okay, that was me walking into the car. Let's have the car drive into me. I did this at very low speeds. And you'll see, and we'll throw this from 2 different angles. That's me showing I'm doing test 2.
So all during this finger painting exercise, I was kind of expecting the crash reconstructionist to be able to give us some actual data about how the taillight could possibly cause those injuries. But he doesn't. He actually says there isn't enough information about what happened to John O'Keefe to be able to tell us everything that we want to know. But I mean, yeah, isn't that the whole problem? But the paint exercise wasn't even to tell us more about his injuries. It was literally to show us that the taillight and his arm line up with like height and geometry, as in things we already knew. It still left me with a lot of questions about the injuries that have not been answered. Did it answer y'all's questions? Let me know in comments. Now, Dr. Welcher did attempt to talk about some other injuries, like the head injury to John O'Keefe. And he asked to put on like a baseball cap so he could do a demonstration or demonstrate something for the jury, but that request was denied. Then, as he's explaining the head injury, he shows a video of him doing some testing with a crash test dummy where he basically kind of hugs it and then drops it.
I said, and watch. Shoulders come in, then the head contacts the ground. What you see is if you fall backwards and land on a very hard surface or hard surface, you will get extremely high loads on the head.
So as things are wrapping up for the day, Brennan asked Dr. Welcher about his final conclusion on whether or not the SUV hit John O'Keefe on January 29th in front of 34 Fairview. And Dr. Welcher gave this response.
Based on all the evidence you considered, could you share with the jury what your opinion is to a reasonable degree of engineering certainty about whether the defendant's Lexus struck Mr. O'Keefe on January 29, 2022, around 12:32 a.m.?
Objection, Your Honor.
I can answer. Yes, based on the totality of the evidence, DNA, everything I've talked about, that is consistent with that happening with a reasonable degree of scientific certainty. That is what happened.
Objection, move to strike, Your Honor.
So y'all, this is a huge issue. And if you were watching live with us, you may have seen my reaction to this. If you missed the live with us, then let me explain why this is such a problem. An expert can come give opinions that a layperson might not know on their own. But that's the thing, is experts give opinions. This expert spent all day telling us that he doesn't have enough information to determine this thing or the other. Like he says, we don't know where John O'Keefe was when this supposedly happened. He says, we don't know in the tech stream data when this impact supposedly occurred. We don't know enough about all of these factors to be able to say exactly what happened or how. He says all of this stuff all day, but then at the end of the day, gave a determination and stated it as a fact. That is completely improper for an expert. He can't give a statement of fact to the jury like this is what happened. That's literally why the jury is there, to determine if that's what happened or not. Experts who testify in court know this. So it is wild to me that he even thought it was okay to say this. And the judge can strike it from the record because it's improper, but it was such a big deal that the entire day pretty much ended on this. The judge sent the jury home, and both the prosecution and the defense gave arguments on what was just said and how to handle it from here. And the defense's main argument is that they are arguing that there was no collision. So an expert can't get up and say, yep, that's what happened. And the prosecution argues that the issue isn't whether or not there was a collision. And Brennan basically says the evidence supports Welcher's opinion, so he's allowed to give it. But Brennan completely misses the point here, I think, because he says that Dr. Welcher can give that opinion, but Dr. Welcher didn't say that was an opinion. He said that is what happened. He stated it as a fact. Now, the judge says she is going to take their arguments into consideration and give her decision on this tomorrow morning. But this is a huge deal, so I'm very curious to see what the decision is and what happens with this tomorrow. Now, Dr. Welcher is not done yet. He will be back on the stand, and we will be live tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. There is a late start tomorrow, so we will be right here on Crime Junkie Jury. I will see y'all then.